They told me for years there was no money in podcasting. Well, they were all wrong.
I think my biggest takeaway was the NFT conversation because it's being used now. Brands, especially luxury brands, are using NFTs to unlock exclusive, either social experiences. Let's say, for example, there is an exclusive shoe by Nike, just a random example, that you need this NFT to unlock that social experience and then to go into the store, and that NFT is your currency to get those limited edition shoes. Brands are already using this. They're also talking about how to use NFTs as a way for rewards programs or gamification or just unlocking exclusive experiences, and it's being done now. And I know you will appreciate this, but even when it comes to entertainment, incorporating the physical experience of going to a concert and also the digital experience of going to a concert. And I think, one of the silver linings of the pandemic was it showed us how to do that. It accelerated all these trends that we would have been looking at 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Based out of that conversation, it also lends to, for a brand, you're unlocking that experience between digital to brick and mortar store. It's another distribution and engagement channel for them. So it's not just about Twitter and Facebook and Insta and TikTok. They actually have these immersive digital worlds that's also part of their distribution channel. I also think with NFTs, we were also talking about how it can be used for charitable purposes as well. And there are a number of NFTs that are projects that are working on that. So to me, that was really the key takeaway, how NFTs are kind of that dipping your toe in the water of the metaverse.
Yeah, NFTs also confuse me. I mean, I get the idea. It's like completely one of a kind. There's value in it because because it's completely original, and two, people are buying them, right? People give value to things because people are going to buy them. In the metaverse, NFTs work in the metaverse hand in hand. It's interesting. Like you say, a concert experience. I can see it totally taking off. Like you can't actually afford to go to the physical concert in person. You can go there from your home. You just got to put your little headset on and you experience the full glory of that concert. I see that version of the metaverse taking off huge. I see it being huge in gaming. I see it things with healthcare being successful. But I don't buy that it's going to work in every aspect, because what are the rules and who makes the rules? When someone asks me about the metaverse, the first question I ask, what are my rights? And people kind of look at me like, huh? It's like, no, I mean, what are my rights? What am I allowed to do and not do, and who makes those rules? Do you really want to go into a universe owned by Jeff Bezos or owned by Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, where they make all of the rules and there's no process to fight those rules? It's, just don't use it. Well, the internet we're seeing now is life cannot exist without the internet, right? If you don't have the internet, you don't have a business. If your business doesn't have a website, you don't exist. So you have a society dependent on the internet, which right now doesn't really have set rules, which is 2D space. You're going to bring into a 3D space, which even less rules and more confusion. So I don't even know where to go from there, but with who owns the metaverse, what are my rights? What am I allowed to do and not do? And how do we prevent the end of the world in the digital metaverse?
So the genesis of Web3 was, to your point, with what we're seeing with Web2. Apple, Google, Microsoft, those companies are the X in Web2. Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're transacting your digital experience as you know it now. Web3 is along the lines of it being a more user-based, content creator controlled space. Now, how is that regulated? What are the rules? It's in its infancy, and that's what we're trying to figure out. Also, the other question is, well, what happens with all the data? And the challenge with that is coming to global standardization with data is incredibly tricky. Part of that is, as an example, our data privacy rules in the US are very different than what they are in the EU.
Yep.
That's one thing. When it comes to free speech and so forth, we are unique in the fact that we have the First Amendment. Other areas of the world don't. And it's not just because we have these amendments. Historically, it's a fundamental thing that we value free speech. We value openness here in the US. In Europe, they tend to be more protective of their data you also have to think about it in the context of these are all different countries within one continent. The U.S. is all different states within one country.
Yep.
Within North America, our values, our laws, with the exception of the state level, are unanimous, right? We don't have that separation like all these little countries do within one continent.
Yep.
So those are where the fundamental differences are. What I will say with Web3 is because it is user built, I think it's great for the creator economy, which is certainly the way that we're going. I mean, think about it, I guess, as the modern day contracting, freelancing, even for gamers. Technically, there is no end to a game because if users are building that content, they can just continue to build worlds and more worlds.
Yep.
Again, it's in its infancy. There will be challenges with standardizing it, but because it is user controlled, I don't think we'll have the overlord feeling, if you will, by the big tech companies that we have now. That said, Web 2 tech companies are not just going to let this go by the by.
Right.
You know, obviously they're going to want to be involved. How that plays out, that's anyone's guess. And those are the questions that I ask, you know, in the course of my interviewing, and that's essentially the answers that I get too. You know, they're still trying to figure out what this looks like. And I think when you take a step back and you think of Meta, you think of Web3, it could be very, very, very good. But if it's bad, it could also be very, very bad.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is, and we're seeing this now, especially in the polarized state that we exist in, when you think of augmented reality, virtual reality, deep fakes, it's going to be really hard to discern what's real, what's not.
And we
that's my biggest
don't
concern.
know what's real and what's
Right.
not real. Like that's my big thing. Web3 is incredibly exciting, and it is an infancy. And the fact that we don't know the answer to these questions is okay, right? That's to be expected. If they had the answer to these questions, I'd be a little more concerned. But so the question, the perspective being asked is good. But my thing is like, guys, if I was the all dominant rule of the world, I'd be like, guys, let's just take a breath, take a beat, slow down, because we still have so much chaos in Web 2. Let's kind of figure that out first, and like take your time into building Web3 into what it should be and what it could be, instead of just, we gotta get there right now, so fast, right now, now, money, right? Because like if you gotta do something, you gotta do it right. And
I get it, but I don't think fixing Web 2 is necessarily the answer. I think it is a challenge to fix it. The regulation around it is outdated.
Okay.
So are we going to sit around and wait, or are we going to try and develop other technologies that perhaps could be a better path? I think that it's even bigger than what's happening in technology right now. I just think it's a current state of affairs that is making everything really hard to regulate because everything's a political hot button, or it gets turned into that kind of issue. The current regulation that moderates Web 2 social media as of now is Section 230. I mean, it's over 20 years old. And that is the challenge. Are they publishers or are they not publishers? Who's moderating? Who's getting kicked off? Are we protecting free speech? Although there's such a big misunderstanding of how the First Amendment technically works. That's related to the government. These are private companies. Private companies can do what they want in terms of who their user base is. And look, that if that impacts their revenue stream, if that impacts their user base, well, that's a business decision that they chose to make. So I think understanding all of that is what makes Web 2 so challenging. And I think when you're looking into developing Web 3, all of these is in the back of our minds as you're looking to develop that.
I see. So you can kind of take the failures of Web 2 and kind of fix those wrongs instead of in Web 2 in a brand new thing in Web 3.
And that's innovation.
Yeah,
That's how all industries evolve.
I am all for innovation. Like if someone wants to, if Zuckerberg wants to develop the metaverse or whoever wants to do his metaverse, you are 100% allowed to do that. Like I would never be like, just stop innovating or create a law to stop innovation. No. Innovation, free market capitalism is inherently, I think, good as a whole, right? It moves society forward. Now you have checks and balance with capitalism, which and kind of, regulate monopolies, which may or not be happening, but just stop innovation because it might be dangerous. No, I think that's silly. I think that's actually a step backward, for sure.